Hey guys, I got a fun project for you here I want to share with you. This is my new 40-gallon parts washer. It's replacing my old washer that I'll show you here in a second. I put a ton of time, you can ask all my friends, they're tired of hearing me talk about this, but I put a ton of time into researching what everyone's done with these, trying to see if I could come up with anything new, trying to make the best bang for the buck parts washer that you could build or buy. And I think I've mostly accomplished that. It's not perfect, but it is light years ahead of where I was. So I'm going to take you over there and show you my old one to show you why I wanted to build this the way I did. So this is the old parts washer. Now, just to start off, every one of these parts washers you can find are the exact same. They are all made in the same shop in China. They just have different paint on them. So this one's black. That one's yellow, that's from Jegs. The black one's from Summit. I saw some red paint underneath on the Jegs unit. So that's like Sunex and OEM, you know, Harbor Freight, whatever. So don't worry about the brand, just find the cheapest possible one you can find. This black one was $200 from Summit Racing back in 2016. In 2023, I got this one from Jegs for $240 on sale. So the deals are still out there 7 years later. Now this parts washer was by no means broken or worn out or anything, but I wanted to start with a new platform to build off of rather than this dirty old one. So I'll show you what I did on this guy. As you can see, all of the paint on the inside comes off. Now this is zinc plated. It looks like it's yellow zinc, and so it really doesn't need paint on it. They should just leave this bare, and by rights it should all be stainless, obviously, then it couldn't rust. Since they want a water cleaning solution, you can't have bare steel in there, it's going to rust. Even zinc plated is going to rust. So all the paint came off in big clumps the first couple times I cleaned this thing out, and once all the paint was gone, my parts actually came out clean. So it's a bummer that they have to paint the insides of these. I know this looks terrible, but this is actually clean. The only mod I really did on this one was, and this was stupid, but I ran pipe fittings all the way from the bottom up out the side, some real janky rough cut holes. Actually, I think I had some fuel line in there as isolators at one point, but those fell out, and went to this oil filter housing. So we'll debunk the oil filter myth right now. I just replaced the oil filter for the first time in 7 years because I thought I was losing flow. I thought the filter was clogged. It turns out that purple power apparently can eat through brass. Steel's fine, but the brass, it literally ate through it. So I lost my flow. My filter looked fine. I took the filter off, 7 years old. Everybody's freaking out about paper filters, oil filters, how it's gonna decompose in your cleaning solution. That is false. Never had to replace that filter in 7 years. I never replaced this kind of janky filter on this cover in 7 years. Okay, it's just a piece of like white gauze. The pump, after 7 years, still runs flawlessly. No extra filtering before the pump. Pump still works great. So all this stuff about, oh my God, the pump's gonna die if we don't filter it more, not really true. Not in my case anyway. As far as filtering your solution post-pump, here's why I did it. Because when you have your cleaning solution in here and you have a bunch of oily parts that you clean off, oil is lighter than water, so it raises to the top. And then as you start scrubbing, it starts to mix in with the water and it goes inside the pump and it would come out. So by filtering it post-pump, I get nice clean cleaning solution coming out of my sprayer, so that when I wash a part off, I'm not washing it with oil and holding a dirty part in my hand. I could submerge it in here to soak it, and when I pull it out, it'll have an oil film on it. Then I turn that on and I rinse it off with the hose and it's clean. So that's worked great. Why do I want to change? because a couple reasons. You can see these have these big shelves in them. So the idea is you fill your fluid level up to roughly here, right? But then you have all this wasted space underneath, having this shelf in here, and this latch takes up a big chunk of room, so really you can only close the lid if it's this tall and this wide. I wanted to find a way to put a part in here, actually keep the lid shut so I'm not losing my cleaning solution to evaporation. And so I also wanted to find a way, if possible, to be able to get rid of that top layer of oily film that's always sitting in here. So I think I've done that. So I don't really know where to start on this. Let's just start and work our way up from the bottom to the top. So everybody likes to put casters or like a caster trolley cart underneath their parts washers. I don't need this to be mobile. This is going to sit in one spot. The last one sat in the same spot for the last 5 years, never moved it. The reason I put wheels on this, 2 reasons. I'm 6'4", and it's a heck of a lot easier on my back having this another 6 inches higher, which is what these wheels are. And if I ever take this outside to power wash it out, to really clean it out, it's heavy enough it's hard for one person to carry it by themselves. Now that I have wheels on it, I can roll it outside once a year if I choose to do that. So I ran more expensive wheels on the front. They are the silver rubber. They have the brake option so I can keep it from moving. Then on the back you can see I have the black rubber wheels. Difference in cost, $6 for the black rubber, $16 for the silver rubber. Same exact size, mounting patterns and everything. So I use 3 M8 by 1.25 bolts to go through the mounting feet. I didn't add any extra material to the parts washer. Keep wanting to call it a power washer, I don't know why. And then I moved the tray to the bottom for 2 reasons. 1, to make room for buckets to be able to sit on top of it. And 2, to make the legs more rigid at the bottom so that the wheels would not try to bend the angle iron out. Because if you had your shelf here, wheels down here, this flimsy angle iron would want to bend. And it is very easy to roll this around with 40 gallons of water in it. When I did my leak test, I filled this thing plumb full, rolled it around, and you can push it around with one hand. All right, so we've got our shelf moved down. Next thing, let's talk about our cleaning solution. So I went ahead, I was curious. I'm kind of fixing what's not broke here. So in my last parts washer, I ran Purple Power. And Purple Power is $5 a gallon. If you buy it at Walmart, it comes in a 5-gallon jug and it's 25 bucks. And sometimes you can get it a little bit cheaper than that. That is the cheapest working cleaning solution you can get. It's water-based. Now there's videos out there talking about all these different solutions. LA's Totally Awesome is total garbage. It's super cheap for a reason. There's Simple Green, that's crap. There's Mean Green, that's probably the worst out of everything I tried. So if you go to my video about, it's called the Entire Cleaner Test. And I go through every degreaser that has a good reputation or that's cheap. I test them all, and I have very definitive results. Mean Green, Simple Green, total waste of time. There's Adams Polishes, all-purpose cleaner. It's green stuff. It's very mild. It's not good for trying to clean aggressively. It's good for cleaning interiors where you don't want to be aggressive. There's Purple Power, which is so-so, like it works. It worked in my old parts washer. It didn't destroy the pump, didn't destroy the filter. I could leave aluminum parts soak in it for 3 days and they didn't disappear. So the Purple Power works. If you're looking for cheap as possible, I would go with Purple Power. Now I ran that pure concentrated. I didn't put any water in it. And I was dumb at one point. I put 40 gallons in there because I thought that's what I had to do. And I lost most of it to evaporation. The truth is, you should be able to put distilled water in there and water that down, because you don't need that pure concentrate. And you actually end up having to take it out of the parts washer afterwards and rinse it down with water, because it's basically covered in soap when you have that pure concentrated formula. So you can run Purple Power. That works. I've tested that. The best water-based degreaser is Super Clean. The cheapest place to get that is Menards. It's $7 to $8 per gallon when it's on sale. They also have ZEP, Z-E-P, Industrial Purple Cleaner, which if you look at my tire cleaning test, the ZEP and the Super Clean are about dead even. The Super Clean works just a bit better, but they're both purple. They both look and smell like the same thing. The difference is the ZEP costs more. The ZEP's, I don't know, $10 or $11 a gallon. So the Super Clean is almost the cheapest and works by far the best out of everything. So if I go to try Super Clean in this, I'm going to play with my percentages, but I'm not going to run it at a full concentrate. I'm going to dilute it with distilled water and probably start out with like a 60% Super Clean to 40% water, and then work my way up or down from there. But I wanted to try this PSC 1000 from Tractor Supply because it is a solvent and it smells like paint thinner or mineral spirits, but it's a lot pricier. It's $53 after tax for 5 gallons, so pretty close to $11 a gallon, and it's solvent, so you can't dilute it down with water to bring your volume up. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if it works better than the Purple Power or the Super Clean. I only bought 5 gallons for now because I'm not going to go spend 165 bucks on this stuff and then find out that I hate it. So far, the biggest difference is the smell. It's kind of irritating. It'll give you a headache, whereas with the Purple Power, and I know from just using the Super Clean, there really is no smell to affect you. So that might be enough in and of itself to make me switch back over to the water solution. All right, so we've worked our way up to the buckets. So ultimately, I'm going to have 3, maybe even 4 buckets sitting down here. But that's because I'm actually draining all of this fluid down back into the buckets. So I'm going to reverse, and we're going to come and work our way from the top going down. So I've got this latch here. I'm going to open it up really quick and show you why I need it. So I put this sealing foam all the way around the perimeter. I used what I had. I used to make a product that used this foam. It's really expensive stuff. It's not necessarily the right thing for this, but I had a huge roll of it. It's really expensive, and I haven't had any other uses for it in the last 2 years, so I threw it on. It sticks really well. Just wipe everything down with rubbing alcohol first to get any oil, and then put this on. So this is going to smash down along this lip all the way around. The problem is it's going to be tighter at the back than it is at the front, because this piano hinge makes the back edge thicker. So when you close it, it would kind of hold itself up a little bit. So I went to Menards. That's the hardware store. It's like Lowe's and Home Depot if you don't have one. And it's not the perfect hinge, but it was the only thing they had there that I could find like this. They called it a draw hasp. They had 2 different sizes. One was huge, and this was the other option. Both surfaces are supposed to be flush, whereas this is inset. This sticks out. I use some gutter self-tapping sheet metal screws with Loctite on them because they don't protrude out. They're only like 3/4 or 1/2 inch long. So, and then I took the side cutters and cut the points off on the back side so I can't cut myself. But now, when I shut it, I can latch it down like this, and it pulls it down tight. Problem is, since these two surfaces aren't flush, this can't cam all the way over. So I just took a piece of aluminum TIG filler rod, and because this has a hole for like a padlock, I just put that through there, and that keeps it tight. I use the parts washer maybe once a month, twice a month, so it's not like I'm in and out of this all the time. There's definitely better options out there for latches. You just have to take your time and find one. This is going to work great though, because with the purple power, I was losing tons of solution to evaporation. So having this seal and having the lid closed down tight against it is going to help tremendously. As far as the pump that's in the parts washer, I was a little irritated. I had to spend $10 for just this little strip of tape. It's waterproof duct tape, Duck brand, and I took a piece that long, cut it in half down the middle, and put one piece on the inside. And then of course you had a big piece of the adhesive showing right here, so I went ahead and put the other half going back against it. Otherwise dirt and stuff would start sticking to that exposed portion right there. But that's the other huge air gap that exists in these, where things can evaporate. So since it's waterproof, since it's $10 for a tiny little roll of waterproof, I hope it's really, really waterproof, and that should solve that problem. So you'll see I have a big bell housing in here, and this is working exactly like I had in mind. I can put a big bell housing in there, and I can close the lid. I can let the solvent flow and walk away from it and not have to worry about the evaporation. I do have the shelf here. I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to put that in there. There just doesn't really seem to be a reason to me, unless of course you want to set it up on a platform so it can drip dry. I think it would be better to actually remake that guy out of stainless though, because you know all that paint's going to come off. So we'll see. It's pricey for stainless like that. So you're probably wondering what's going on with the pump setup, and you're not seeing my oil filter. Well, I decided not to do a spin-on oil filter. I decided to just use gravity and make basically a natural filter using science instead of media. One thing I did add was like a Brillo pad. It's literally, I didn't even shop around to look. I just grabbed the first thing I saw at Menards. It's this 3-pack. Cut it down a little bit. Put a couple zip ties over it. It's not going to hurt anything to have a little bit extra filtration before that pump. Not sure it's going to do a whole lot, but for $1, really can't go wrong just adding that on. As far as the drain, we'll get to this in a second, but we drain our solvent back down into the bucket. So I want to catch the big stuff. So I got this. They had like 20 different sizes, but this is a 2 3/4 inch bathtub mesh strainer, stainless steel. And I wanted it to sit flush down against the sheet metal so that stuff could, you know, there's no way to put the drain down into the drain hole because it's so small. So I flipped this over, and then I got 2 really strong magnets. It's $3 for a 2-pack of magnets, and that holds this in place. Like, this is not moving anywhere. That'll keep the big stuff from going down. Now when the day is all said and done and you take your parts out and you're done, hopped on Amazon for like $8. I got a 3-pack of beach buckets and shovels. So you take your shovel, scoop up all your big debris, throw it in your bucket, and take that out and dispose it so it's not polluting and contaminating your solvent. Because that was the biggest problem I had with the old black one, was I just had a drain plug in the bottom. The fluid never went anywhere. Everything I washed off sat in the bottom. And so even when I would drain all the liquid out, there'd be, you know, an inch or two of sludge in the bottom. So now that we can drain this out every day, now I can keep this thing clean, keep all the heavy sediment out for the majority. Might be a little bit that works down into the bottom of the bucket, but I have a solution for that. We'll get to in a minute. Another thing I wanted to mention about the types of cleaning solutions. So the Purple Power is so purple, it looks dirty when you get it. And when I would fill the parts washer up, especially having the black paint didn't help anything either. This being yellow is going to be a benefit to being able to see underneath your solvent. But the Purple Power was so purple, it was hard to see through it, and as soon as it got any oil in it, you know, you couldn't see anything. Now the Super Clean is a very light purple, and when you dilute it with water, it's pretty translucent. So I think that'll work better from a visibility standpoint. And then this PSC 1000, it looks kind of like kerosene. So it's also pretty translucent, and it's a lot easier to see what you're working with, and you can tell better if your cleaning solution is actually clean or if it's completely contaminated. All right, so for the rest of this, I'm going to work my way backwards from the spout to the source of our fluid. So this stuff's called lock line. I have the links in the description. It is not cheap stuff. It's like $5 a foot. I think I bought the 5-foot kit, and then the accessory nozzle kit came with another foot. So I have plenty here. There's 3 different size nozzles. So you can bend these and then hover them over where you want them. Whereas the stainless line that comes attached to this is a piece of crap, and they leak and they don't work right out of the box. These are great. I got this manifold. I knocked it down to just 3 outlets. It comes with 4. This nozzle, then you have on off, so you can independently turn them all on and off. This one points straight down, so if I fill this up, I can turn this on, and it kind of agitates the solution. I can put a part right underneath it. So that comes back. I was actually going to use fuel line for this part, but I had enough extra. I just put this on. This is 1/4 inch NPT an adapter that goes to the line. So we've got a T manifold. We've got 2 ball valves here. So the point of this is, so I have 2 pumps. I have a pump coming from the bucket when I want the tank to stay dry. I open this up and I close this off and I pump from the bucket. Vice versa, if I want to fill this up, I close the petcock off for the drain so the tank fills up. I open this, now I'm using this pump. Didn't really do anything special from here going that way, I just left it stock. It's 1/4 inch NPT. For all of my lines, beyond that, I'm using 3/8 fuel hose because it's rated to be in this oil-based solvent. Looks like I forgot to tighten this clamp, but I'm using this style of clamp where you crimp it down so it's a permanent crimp. Every time I pass through something, I'm using the proper size grommet. This is 5/8 ID by 7/8 OD. That way it's snug. I'm not losing solvent through evaporation through that hole. I don't have to worry about chafing. And then I just use this style of drill bit because as it steps up, it doesn't grab and grip, and it goes up to 7/8. I also don't have a 7/8 drill bit, so this worked perfect. It was $1. The other pump I got was just a replacement for this parts washer. They're $30. No other pump is that cheap, and we know it's going to work because that's what we're using up above. Everybody says get the pliers for the lock line. I would agree. It makes it very simple to crimp them and expand them back apart. These are the splices I use underneath for the multiple buckets. And then I got these ball valves to shut off each bucket individually. Now coming out of the tank, This is M14 by 1.5, and it's supposed to have either an O-ring or a crush washer. This fitting that I put in is just a 10mm barb, which is essentially 3/8, and I wrapped the heck out of it with Teflon tape, and that did make it seal, but it's not ideal, but it does seal. This thing that everybody preaches about for these parts washers has such a tiny orifice. It's 0.2 inches, whereas this is 0.31 inches. The time to drain 2 gallons with the ball valve adapter fitting was about 5 minutes, and it was only not quite 3 minutes with this larger open orifice. So I threw this out. I'll be returning that, and I just run this to a splice, put a ball valve in going to this bucket, and then I go to my next I put a ball valve on here temporarily. Once I find out what cleaning solution I want, then I'll finish setting up my buckets. But I would have another splice, and then I would put this ball valve going into this bucket, and then another ball valve into the last bucket. And that way I can have 15 gallons or 20 gallons or whatever. Let's talk real quick about quantity of fluid. So with this 40-gallon parts washer, of course this is going to be different for you guys with the 20s, but with this 40, it takes a minimum of 8 gallons to get the pump to prime and start shooting out fluid. But it's not happy, it makes a lot of noise. So I added a gallon at a time to see where it would quiet down, and it was 12 gallons, which kind of sucks, because if you're using the PSC 1000, there's a pretty fine line. You're going to have to get 3 buckets of it. You're going to have to run 15 gallons. But now you know, if you're going to pour fluid in here, you're going to have to put 12 gallons in here to get that pump to run happily. So don't ever run less than 12 gallons. If you don't want to run $150 worth of solvent though, that's what takes me to this idea. Now I only have to run 5 gallons because I put a pump in a 5-gallon bucket. So I just saved myself $100 if I'm tight on money and I really don't need to fill this thing up and let a part soak. I've got my drain going through. I've got my grommets on all these, which you can see. This is my feed hose here, and this is the pump. So the pump comes with, you know, it's meant to wire back in to that switch panel. So what I did was I ran the ground wire from that switch panel down in. I put just a male outlet on the end of the cable, and then ran a ground to the original ground point. So it's grounded, ran an extension cord. So I have the same length cord coming off both pumps. And then this one's on-off switch is right here. For $3 at Menards, you can buy this, plugs into your outlet, and then you have a lighted on-off switch. So what's going on inside the bucket? I'm not sure I'm going to be able to show you, but I built you can kind of see it. I built a stainless steel wheel, and I'll show you an example here in a second. But that sits on the bottom. I took some scrap stainless and welded a platform. There's a better shot. I welded a platform for it to sit on, so it's not on the bottom. It's suspended up off the bottom. So our intake is right here. So if there's large sediment, I don't have to worry about that going into the pump because we're not sucking in until here. And as the oil residue that's lighter than water settles, it'll settle up here. So I don't need a filter because this solvent in the middle is clean. So I'm only pulling the clean stuff off. Now as you're draining stuff in, it's going to get agitated, but I'm not worried about that. That's fine enough. That's going to go through no problem. So you'll have to play with your flow rates. I've already made sure I've watched each combination and each individual nozzle. All 3 of these, even the biggest one, can run sustained without draining the bucket, because you have to keep in mind that drain is so small. We can't drain that much. I think it's like 2 gallons a minute is the flow rate for a 5/16 orifice. Now if I turn on 2 or more of the nozzles, the pump will fill the tank faster than the tank can drain, and then the pump will go dry. So that's why you gotta do your math and experiment with it. Make sure you're not gonna starve your pump, because that is how you'll kill one of these pumps. All right, so the last thing I have for you in this video is I'm gonna try to explain my idea going forward once I figure out which type of solution I'm gonna use. So I'll have 3 buckets. This will be my pump bucket. This will actually be my last bucket. I will drain over here first. So the oil, all the dirt and crap will go into this bucket. I'll run a hose about halfway down each bucket. I'll probably have to put a primer bulb in there, just a hand squeezed primer bulb. That'll suck the fluid out of dirty bucket number 1 and go to bucket number 2. And by the siphoning effect, those levels will equalize. And then I'll do the same thing from bucket 2 to bucket 3. And what that'll do is it'll keep bucket number 1 full of all the heavy crap and all the oil at the top. And then it'll go to bucket number 2 and finally bucket number 3. Bucket 2 will have some agitated stuff in it, and by the time you get here, this should be pretty much crystal clear. And that'll be how I filter without having to use an actual media filter like an oil filter. Problem is, you got lots of hoses to deal with and lids to pop off and stuff. If you ever want to fill this thing up, say I wanted to let this whole bell housing soak. So that's the problem, especially with the PSC 1000, since it's $55 a jug. The super clean, you know, it's a lot easier. You can keep a higher quantity. I could have 6 buckets sitting down there if I wanted to. But that is the goal. Once I find out which solution I like more, I'm going to do a follow-up video. I'll let you know how everything's doing. I'll probably give it a good year so I get some use out of this and I have some useful feedback for you. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps. I know there's a million different videos out there about parts washers and mods, but I think we're on to something here. So give it a try, look for those good deals, and have fun. Thanks.